So this is the Dokument der Wirklichkeit. This is by Oscar Schlemmer from 1888 to 1943. So this image is very reminiscent of the Futurism and the Cubism techniques. We've got a mixture of outline letters, expanded bold lettering, and accentuated sans serif. And these all have very vibrant colors, reminiscent of the work of Paul Klee, who was a painter. So this work um, was part of the transition of turning work into uh, the social reality. So this basically utopian society brought into reality. Oscar Schlemmer was not just a graphic designer, he was a painter, sculptor, choreographer, and stage designer. He had a multimedia design aesthetic, and I would say that a modern day example of this would be Lady Gaga's Bad Romance video, if you've ever seen it, with the kind of mechanical dance and the costumes that look very structural, architectural. This is an example of Blackletter inspired text from Lionel Feininger, and he was trying to associate the Bauhaus school with a specific design style of lettering, and this was sort of an avant-garde take on lettering, and this was something that he had been experimenting with for quite a while. This was a cover for the publication Neue Europäische Grafik, which means New European Graphics, and this was a lithograph, and it's got the spikiness to it to suggest calligraphy, and the letters drip down almost vertically. And you also see that same crystal-like appearance that you saw earlier with the architecture and the art that he did for the cathedral woodcut. So the lines are definitely uneven, as the book says, but wouldn't you say as a whole they actually do look even because some parts are higher than others or lower than others, and as a whole it reads as being even though each individual letter stands on a different plane. So if you were to just put down two letters, it wouldn't look right, but having the whole words and sentences and lines spaced out, you sort of see a uniformity begin to develop over time. This is by the artist Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, and this was a Hungarian artist who had an enormous influence over the Bauhaus curriculum, which was a modernist, and he was very experimental from the outset, and his influences were Dadaism, Suprematism, Constructivism, and he was invited to the Bauhaus by Walter Gropius, and he took over their preliminary course of the school, and he gave it a more practical and experimental bent, which for the Bauhaus could only be a positive. And of course, he took part in the Gesamtkunstwerk, later delving into commercial design, to theater set design, and filmography, and magazine art. So his legacy was very widespread. And his key ideas were believing that humanity could only defeat modernity by using the full potential of new technologies, and artists should be designers, and they should specialize, and they should always be experimenting to find the answers uh, to what humanity is in need of. He was also hugely interested in photography, um, although he thought that artists should have a vision to specialize and modernize their work. So he this is around the advent of the camera, and artists were seeing things through the lens of the camera, and a lot of the classical training, which was taught to use formulas to create photorealistic art, um, this was kind of going out of style. So instead of the classical training, he thought maybe people should experiment instead and see different ways of seeing, so to speak. So stretching out the capacity of the human creativity. So he had a lot of interest in space, time, and light in the career that he had, and this transcended all the media that he worked with. So he used technology to create photograms, which were photographs made without the use of cameras or negatives. He also created sculptures out of plexiglass, and he just wanted to see how the different elements of design interacted. So the image here was the logo for the Bauhaus Press, and it's an interlocked square with an equilateral triangle circumscribed by a circle. Almost looks like an arrow or a house. So this has um, the geometry and the asymmetry, at least when you're looking at it head on, of the constructivist look. Important to note that Moholy-Nagy established sans serif as the typographic standard of the school. So he thought all typography should have clarity over any other element. Appeared to be one to enjoy overly flowery decorations or anything embellishing. He thought objects should perform their basic intended task as well as possible, and that was the main goal of design. A design by the artist Fritz Schleifer, and this was an advertisement for an exhibition in 1923, and it's called Bauhaus Ausstellung, which translates directly into Bauhaus Exhibition. And this advertisement is a very simplified form of design. We can sort of see the profile of a face. So if you break it down into its constituent parts, you have 4 blue rectangles and the eye made out of an orange square, and very square-like lettering as well.